Okay, here's our video on the greatest common factor, the GCF. And we're going to use the box method in this video. There's many ways to get the GCF, but we're going to do the box method first. Now remember, we went over factors and multiples in the last video. So let's look at a review. Let's look at the factors of 40. Remember, the numbers that we can multiply, any two numbers that we can multiply that get 40 are the factors. And 40 will be the multiple of these numbers. And that's what we did last video. So let's look. We know we can start with a 1. We always have 1. And at the end, I'll put a 40. So when we do it this way, and you can do it any way you want, but if you do it this way, you know that there can't be any number larger than 40 and lower than 1. So you just keep going then. Will 2 go in the 40? Yes, 2 goes in the 40. And how many times? 2 times what is 40? 20. So I'm doing the small numbers here and the larger numbers here. And we work our way in. So now there can't be a number bigger than 20. So what about 3? Well, 3 doesn't go into 40, but we know 4 does. 4 goes into 40 how many times? 10 times. Okay, and what else? Well, 5 goes into 40 8 times. So those are the factors of 40. These are the factors, and 40 is a multiple of all these numbers. So this is a box, and we're going to do that when we compare two numbers. So let's compare two numbers. Let's say we want to find the greatest common factor of 40 and 15. Well, we already did 40 before. We'll just list the numbers again. Okay. All right, and we had 4, and we had 5, we had 8, and 10. So these are the factors of 40. Now, what are the factors of 15? Sometimes they're not going to share anything but a 1. But we'll go over that. So we know that 1 and 15 we have. So are there any common factors so far? Just 1 so far. 2 doesn't go into 15. 3 goes in 5 times. Is there any other factors? No. So look at these two boxes. This is the box method. What number do they share? What's the highest number they share? 5. 5, you can circle it like that. That is the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor that 40 and 15 share is 5. Okay? Let's do another one now. See if you can do this yourself. Find the GCF, the greatest common factor of 12 and 8, using the box method. Right? So don't forget, make a box for the 12 or the 8, whatever one you want to use. One could be on the bottom, one could be on the top, doesn't matter. And we know we're using a 1 and we're using a 12, and we're using a 1 and we're using an 8. So fill in the rest. Pause the tape and fill in the rest and tell me what is the GCF of 12 and 8. Okay? So I know that 2 goes into 12 6 times, so we have 2 and 6. And we know 3 goes into 12 4 times. And there's no other numbers. So those are the factors of 12, and 12 again is a multiple of all these numbers and itself. And then now for 8, we know that 2 goes into 8 4 times. Is there anything else? No, that's it. No other numbers. So what is the greatest common factor of 12 and 8? 4. 4 is the greatest. They also share 2, but 4 is greater. So that is the GCF of 12 and 8. Again, we're doing the box method. There's other ways of doing it, and we'll do those in other videos. We can also use 3 numbers or 4 numbers. We just have to make 3 boxes. Right? We'll make a box here. We'll make a box here. And we'll make a box here. So pause the tape. It's the same way. Right? We'll start with 1. Doesn't have to be perfect. Right? We'll put 12, 8, 9. Doesn't matter where you put them. So pause the tape and tell me if you know the greatest common factor of 12, 8, and 9. And we already did 12 and 8. Okay, so we already did 12 and 8, so we'll just fill in these boxes. And when you're doing this, make sure you got all the factors. Right, and of 8 and 9. Now, 2 doesn't go into 9. 3 goes into 9. Right? 3 goes into 9. So what is the greatest common factor that they share? Well, 12 and 9 share a 3, and 12 and 8 share a 2. But there's no other factors that they share. So as you can see now, the only factor they share is 1. Now, when 2 or more numbers only share a 1, it's called relatively prime. So I'll write that down. Okay, so it's relatively prime. It's an A. Fix that, make sure it's an A. Relatively prime. So again, if the only numbers they share in 2 or more numbers is 1, and you can see they only share a 1, it's called relatively prime. It's also called coprime or mutually prime. So you can write relatively prime or coprime or mutually prime. So again, what is mutually prime or coprime or relatively prime? If the numbers only share a 1. And again, just to review, remember, 12 and 8 shared a 2, but their greatest common factor was 4. And 12 and 9, their greatest common factor was 3. But all three of them together only shared a 1. So that's the greatest common factor using the box method. Great job.